Hey, welcome aboard. We're gonna fly the longest flight in the world. Yes, Singapore Airlines, Singapore to Newark, New York. Welcome aboard. Hey, welcome to Flight Report. It's a new playlist where we're going to take you to incredible journeys across the world. And we start off on a very high note. I mean, flying the longest sector, the longest scheduled sector in the world is something that you don't do every day. And we did it last November 2019. We flew Singapore to Newark on Singapore Airlines' brand new A350-ULR, which stands for Ultra Long Range. It's a special version with a higher takeoff weight, higher fuel capacity, higher thrust in the engines, and lower seat density. They take fewer seats. There's only business class and premium economy because the flight can take as much as 19 hours, depending on the route and on the winds. That's very important. I mean, talking about the route and the winds, they all come together. The airline and the pilots and the operational area, every day they plan a different, or they may plan a different route depending on the atmospheric conditions. I mean, if the winds are too strong in one airway, they might take another. So always carefully planned, and especially on those ultra long range flights. That is of paramount importance. I mean, you gotta do a very good planning because it may be the difference between completing the journey sometimes with 1 hour, 1 hour and a half of flying time difference, and lots of fuel consumed for absolutely nothing. So on this day, the day that I flew, our routing took us after takeoff. We headed north from Singapore, then we flew over Japan, and then we flew towards Alaska. We really crossed over the Alaskan state, and then we entered Canadian airspace, so we reached Newark from the northwest. Yeah. All right, so here's how we're going to present the hard data on the flight. There's always this information compiled so you can have all the technical aspects regarding the flight, like tail numbers, the date, engine, seat configuration, just a tiny little bit of information about the airline, the seat that I was occupying. So instead of talking about it, there's this visual cue. We just follow that, including some technical information like the takeoff weight, runways used, you know, the works. Everything that geeks like you and me love to know when they're doing a flight check or flight report. Hey, did you get the registration? Yeah. Did you know how much it weighed on takeoff? Yeah. So that's what we get. And also my score, 8.9 on a scale of 10. So as you can see, Singapore is very high on my esteem. Actually, I think it's the best airline in the world, period, because they're excellent and consistent. Being excellent, you can do, but being excellent and consistent is pretty rare. Well, of course, Singapore's base airport, Changi, helps a lot. So I entered the Silver Cruise Lounge, which is the lounge dedicated for business class passengers. There's a even more posh lounge for first class. But the A350-ULR doesn't have first class, it's just business class. So here we are, ready to embark on the world's longest flight, and we flew Sierra Golf Alpha, the very first A350-ULR delivered. So that's the screen that welcomes customers aboard on seat 14K, and yes, we had over 16 hours to go. Pretty long flight. And I was coming from Japan on that day, so I had done some flying. I did Japan to Singapore and then Singapore to New York. My lovely crew, amazing as always, the Singapore girls and that chief purser. I mean, they were above and beyond excellent. I mean, they were absolutely perfect professionals. The seat is incredible, one of the best I ever had. Spacious, not cumbersome, everything is within easy reach. And during boarding we were offered more entertainment options like reading materials and the amenity kit. Time to take off. Even though being 1 a.m. we had this light supper, and it started with this nice warm sandwich, and that was it. But I couldn't sleep. I was very excited, so I pretty much stayed up all night and saw this beautiful sunrise when we were flying a Beam Japan. Isn't that funny? I was in Japan, flew to Singapore, spent a few hours in Singapore, and then flew back to Newark and I flew on top of Japan. Kind of crazy. So I was telling that we were a Beam Japan when the sun was rising, which is very fitting to the land of the rising sun. Beautiful, beautiful. Also, the 350 had that beautiful winglet or sharklet, curvaceous, very sexy, just like the airplane. Okay, here's the sunrise. So when the sun rose, I stretched a little bit. We had about 8 hours of flying already on our backs. I took a stroll. I went to investigate the airplane. I went to the other side where I made those pictures. And then I walk around down to economy premium, which is what you see now. The airplane doesn't have economy class. It only has economy premium and business class. It's a special configuration with only 161 seats. Wow, that's as you can imagine is business class. So after that, a second meal was offered. We started with the classic satay, then some octopus and oxtail. Actually, it was tasty. But then again, what I really remember is how attentive, how gracious the service was. More than the food. Food has gone down the drain, actually, to be quite frank. In the past few years, every airline, including Singapore, have downgraded the food expenses, so it's noticeable. No more shrimp, no more lobster, no caviar, only in your dreams. And here's, I asked the captains to provide the technical information, which I later use here in the flight reports. Coming to the very end of the flight, we were landing, and yes, I had a great time flying Singapore's SQ-22, the world's longest flight. And when I got to Newark, around 4:45 in the morning, I wasn't feeling, I was tired, I must confess, but it wasn't overbearing. I mean, it didn't feel like I flew for 18 hours. It didn't feel like I was flying or I flew over 30 hours in the past 2 days. I mean, It's tired, but okay. Singapore is really my favorite airline in the world because it's excellent and consistent. I mean, I have over probably 30 flights on Singapore. Never on a single one I had good service. It was always extraordinary, always outstanding, always above excellent. I mean, always outstanding. Some were memorable. So that's why I think Singapore is the best airline in the world, because it delivers superior customer service. I mean, they fly the newest airplanes in the skies, they have great service. I mean, you couldn't ask for more. Actually, you could. I noticed that there has been a downgrade in terms of catering. Catering is not what it used to be in the good old days. But that is really compensated by great seats, great entertainment, great connectivity. So I could use Wi-Fi through most of the flight. I was communicating with my family, for instance, receiving and sending images, emails. So I felt connected even though I was flying for almost 17 hours. I was in the hook. So I wouldn't hesitate to recommend Singapore to any long-haul flying. And it was very, very interesting to fly the world's longest scheduled flight. So I hope you'll like this program. We'll be coming back with more interesting flights. And stay tuned, because the next one is going to be on the world's shortest flight. I think you're going to love it. Okay, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, spread the word. That's what we need to make PandAviation fly even higher. Thank you. See you around.
Blue 658, 1 clear of the Hong Kong airspace journey. Audience Fernando.